Hello, Tom here from the Run Testers with our multi-test review of the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature. This shoe was sent to me and Mike from ProDirect. We don't get paid to talk about this shoe. We can say whatever we want. But if you want to find out more about the shoe, click the link in the caption below. Right, let's jump in and check out the shoe. The Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature costs £145 or $150. It weighs in at 253 grams or 8.9 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 10 millimeters. Since 2019, Nike fans have eagerly awaited an update to the hugely popular Pegasus Turbo 2. Now, 3 years later, the wait is over in the form of the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature. Like its predecessors, it's a shoe that's focused on speed, featuring a rocker design and the return of Nike's ZoomX foam in the midsole. Only this time, that midsole is made with at least 50% recycled ZoomX foam. The upper is made using fly-knit yarns for a secure, breathable and lightweight fit. It features SRO2 Cushlon technology to improve the overall comfort, and on the outsole is a waffle-inspired tread to provide grip and protection.
So Sports Shoes provided my sample for this review, and they actually sent me a shoe half a size down on my normal size without me asking, which is great because it fits me really well. I do think it's quite a long shoe, so going half a size down worked out really well for me. I'd say it's got a really nice snug foot around the midfoot and heel for me, and I've got quite a narrow foot, so I wonder if it might end up being a little bit narrow for some people whilst also being slightly long. So some fit issues to consider, but I was very happy going half a size down on my normal size.
So my thoughts on fit haven't really changed from that initial first run. It does feel like it runs a bit long, but ultimately in the run it was absolutely fine in my UK size 8. There might be an argument still to go half a size down to get something a little bit more snug feeling, particularly up front in the toe box. Ultimately though, it was pretty comfortable for me. I didn't find it an issue out on those runs. You know, I got a really nice kind of feel around the midfoot. I think you get consistent kind of nice padding around the heel here as well. And this kind of tongue and kind of laces combo didn't really kind of sit uncomfortably on the top of my foot as well. Typically, it's a good-looking Nike shoe, and you know it's one that I've kind of used outside of running as well. Though when you do hit a little bit of rain, I did find it is getting a little bit kind of marked up front here. You know, ultimately that's what you're going to get with white shoes. But in terms of that fit, it worked for me in my UK size 8. I would probably say go true to size. Though, as I said, there might be an argument to go half a size down in a shoe and just get something a little bit more snug in terms of that fit. And it was okay for me in terms of running in, you know, all of the kind of runs I did, the quicker and slower stuff overall.
The fit for me in the Turbo Next Nature, I would say go down half a size in this shoe. I don't often say that, but it's definitely a lot of extra space. It's a long shoe for me, and it's not a necessarily narrow shoe either. So given the choice, I would have gone down half a size.
So I've just crept over 50k in this shoe now. That's come from a mix of road running and treadmill running, a variety of kind of paces and speeds as well, some kind of shorter interval stuff. I went out and done a kind of longer, easier run in it as well. Tried to do some quicker kind of 10k, 5k stuff in it as well. Now I can't vouch for how it compares to the Peg Turbo shoes, the previous shoes. I'll leave that to Tom and Nick because they've run in those shoes. But what I can tell you from my experience on the Peg Turbo Next Nature is that, you know, my initial concerns, obviously, particularly after that first run, is that it did feel a little bit on the firm side. You know, I don't massively love running in firm shoes. Now, what I will say, the more mileage I put into the shoe, the less, you know, apparent that firmness has become. And I definitely think when you run a bit quicker in this shoe, that's where it kind of works best. I think from that point of view, you kind of engage this midsole a little bit more and you get actually a very kind of nice, kind of smooth ride in this, I think. I think as soon as I kind of slowed things down, I did a kind of very easy pace, kind of slow, longer run in the shoe. And in those slower elements in that run, it felt a bit more difficult. I felt that firmness a lot more. I felt a little bit more of the kind of, a little bit more unstable in terms of the shoe, in terms of running at those slower paces. I think as soon as you pick up the pace, things like tempo runs, the shorter kind of interval stuff, that's where it really worked best or felt most rewarding for me running in this shoe. And I do think you can run some nice quick stuff in it. I think, it does fit in that kind of mold of quick quick, kind of nippy kind of daily trainers where, I definitely think kind of medium to kind of, moderate to kind of quick paces and that quicker stuff, that's where I felt it worked best. I don't think it works at those kind of slower, kind of slower paces, particularly based on my experience anyway. In terms of the outsole and the kind of grip and traction and durability you're getting from that point of view, it was absolutely fine for me. I was predominantly running on dry roads. As I said, I was running on treadmill as well. I did catch it in the kind of, some heavy rain, and it was absolutely fine from a grip and traction point of view. So no issues there. I'm not seeing any really bad wear either here on the outsole. So from that point of view, it's been pretty solid. I think you're going to get some decent mileage out of this shoe as well. So for me, it's been pretty solid overall. I would say pretty surprising for me, because I didn't think I would massively get on with the firmness that you get from this midsole, and what Nike has done here with this kind of recycled kind of ZoomX foam that you're getting here. But ultimately, it actually worked pretty well for me. And as I said, I think the quicker stuff, pretty solid overall. That's where I think it works best. When you slow things down, I think, you start to see some of the shortcomings in this shoe in terms of, how it's built. But mostly positive for me, really. I really enjoyed running in a shoe, whereas, I thought maybe the more mileage I put into it, I may start to have issues, particularly from a kind of, control and feel underfoot, but that didn't really come. And overall, I've really kind of enjoyed running in the Peg Turbo Next Nature.
So I was a huge fan of the original Nike Pegasus Turbo and the Pegasus Turbo 2, which I've got here. I racked up kind of many hundreds of miles of training and racing in them. They were truly the best all-rounders on the market at the time, I'd say, and a bit ahead of their time, bringing kind of a company's top foams to a training shoe, which is now much more common with training partner shoes across various brands. I've done 80k now in the Peg Turbo Nature, and I've aimed to use it as an all-rounder like the original shoes. So I've done a long run in it, I've done a track workout, I've done lots of kind of daily training, and I quite like it. I'll say that, like the first run I didn't really like it. It felt a bit firm and uncomfortable, and I just started using it for everything, and basically almost forced myself to like it through constant use. It's a bit like when back in the day you'd buy a highly anticipated album, spend a lot of money on it, and then listen to it until you liked it, even if it wasn't very good. Be Here Now, for example. And I think probably the Peg Turbo Nature is a bit better than that. Like, it's not just a shoe I like because I've used it lots. I think it's actually a pretty solid all-rounder shoe that's really only going to struggle because of unflattering comparisons to the originals and some other shoes on the market. So actually on kind of longer runs and a long track session I did in it. So I did a 15-mile long run, and I did a track session where I ran 10 800-meter reps and then 10 200-meter reps. Not kind of all-out pace, but decent pace with not very long recoveries, kind of jog recoveries, and it really did protect the legs well, and it did feel quite fast. I didn't feel the weight of it, even though it is a bit heavier than the original shoe on that track session. It's got, I think, probably a more pronounced rocker than the original, and it did feel very smooth and nice. On that track session, I was running probably the 800 meters. I was running the 800 meter reps about just on 240, so around half marathon pace, probably a little bit quicker, and it felt very comfortable for that. Quite smooth, a little bit of bounce there, and it's not at all a slappy shoe or anything like that. It's probably one of the quieter shoes in Nike's range compared to things like the Tempo Next Percent. I did swap to the Peg Turbo 2 for a couple of those 800 meter reps during the workout, and it is a lighter and softer shoe, that's for sure. This particular shoe is a bit too battered to maybe get a really good comparison of the rides because it's been used so much by me and a friend I've lent it to, but noticeably softer, noticeably lighter straight away, but the actual performance was certainly there for the Turbo Nature in that track session. And then just on base training, it feels good. Like it is firmer than the original. It's probably firmer than I would love in a training shoe myself, but for a lot of people, they might like the ride. It's certainly not harsh or anything like that. It's protective, comfortable, pretty stable because it is a little bit firmer with the recycled ZoomX. And it does handle a variety of paces pretty well. So I say the grip's been pretty solid for me with this waffle grip outsole. On that 50-mile long run, I took an ill-advised detour down a canal towpath that turned out to be quite muddy, and I was okay basically in a kind of single track, grass and mud and that kind of thing for a short period during the summer. Certainly not a trail shoe, but the grip's okay, and it was pretty good on wet roads as well. So all in all, I did enjoy running in the Pegasus Turbo Nature. I think its big problem is actually going to be not what the shoe is, but what it isn't.
So when I did the first run review of the Turbo Next Nature, I wasn't a big fan of it initially. It felt a little bit too hard. It felt a little bit clunky. The foam just felt a little bit too dense for me. Couldn't quite get on with it at slower paces, and at faster paces, it just didn't seem to deliver the goods. But what I did say in that review is that And what I'd heard from other people talking about the shoe is that it takes a little bit of time for that foam to soften up and to become a little bit more energetic on the runs. I think the other reason I didn't like this shoe initially is because I was comparing it to the original Turbo trainer from Nike, which I absolutely loved. It was one of my favourite shoes. It was the first super shoe I'd ever really tried, or the first shoe that had super foam in it, and I love that shoe enormously. So when I got this shoe, I was a little bit disappointed because I was possibly unfairly comparing it with that shoe, but I still don't think Nike should have called this the Turbo Next Nature. I think they should have given the shoe a different name, because I think it would be more well received if it wasn't being compared to the likes of the Turbo and the Turbo 2. But after running about 60k in this shoe over the past couple of weeks, I have warmed to it a bit more. I still don't think it's by any way an exceptional shoe. I still don't think it is the most enjoyable shoe out there. When I got my rotation of shoes and I'm going out for a daily run, I'm still not thinking I want to take this shoe out with me. I've got much better shoes for that, and I've got shoes that I enjoy running in and I really want to take out. But what I would say is that midsole foam, it has got better over the course of my runs over the past few weeks. And I've used the shoe from about 18k easy runs as part of my marathon training, but I've also used it for some interval sessions and a park run as well. I also took out my original Turbo 2 for a park run, 2 separate park runs, to see how they both fared. Now, the Turbo 2, it's quite easy with old shoes to look back and go, oh, that shoe was amazing, and then actually put it on again and realise that in the last few years, other shoes have superseded it, and it's not as good, and you're looking at it with rose-tinted glasses. What I would say is that the Peg Turbo, it's still a fantastic shoe. It's still comfortable, still feels really fast, feels light, still a great shoe, and I loved doing a park run in that shoe. This shoe, I wouldn't say I loved doing the park run in it. I didn't mind it. I didn't go at my full pace because I'm not allowed to, because of my marathon training plan at the moment, so I couldn't go at full race pace. But I went pretty fast in it for my running speed. So I was running at about 4-minute kilometers for that run, and it was fine. It was fine. It didn't massively disappoint me. It just wasn't as good as other shoes that are designed to run at speed. So what I would say is about this shoe, it can go a bit faster. It's a relatively versatile shoe, and you can also use it for slower runs as well. But it's not particularly good at either of those. There's many shoes out there that are better daily trainers when it comes to versatility for running faster, and there's many daily trainers that are better for running nice, comfortable miles as well. And this doesn't really tick the boxes for either of those for me. It's fine if you got this shoe and you were using it for lots of different types of runs. You're not going to be disappointed in it, but equally, it's not going to amaze you in any way. It doesn't excel in any area. It's just a solid shoe that ticks a lot of boxes and does the job. But when you compare it with a lot of other options, it's just not quite there for me.
My verdict on the Pegasus Turbo Nature is that this is a good shoe and a good all-rounder option that is going to be massively undermined by unflattering comparisons to the original Pegasus Turbo, which is a better shoe. It's a lighter shoe, it's a more energetic shoe, a more enjoyable shoe to use. This will get the job done, but and I think people who buy it, I think you probably get a good ride out of it, and it will last a decent amount of time, and it's going to be a good all-rounder option. But I don't see you falling in love with the Pegasus Turbo Nature as you might well have done with the original Pegasus Turbo. Like, I certainly fell in love with that shoe. I took it everywhere. I remember running around like beaches on it and holiday and stuff like that. And this shoe is not one that I'll probably end up putting in my rotation, even though it is a solid performer. And almost the bigger problem the Pegasus Turbo Nature has is comparisons to the other shoes on the market. Like the Peg Turbo, I think, was a bit ahead of its time. There wasn't a load of these great training partner shoes out there, and now there is. And I think the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 and the Hoka Mach 5 are two that really stand out to me as just a bit better than this shoe in every way, whether it's speed, whether it's kind of weight, whether it's comfort, performance on long runs. I think they're just two better shoes straight off the bat than this shoe, and those are the ones I'd go for ahead of it. There's also the Asics Nova Blast 3, which is very popular. We're just about to start testing it, and that's another big competitor now. And I just think it doesn't really stand out on the market. So The Pegasus Turbo would have had, really hot competition from those shoes if they were around when it launched, but it would have been a great competitor. And this just, is a worse version of the shoe. And so it is going to struggle against those modern training partner shoes that are a bit more impressive all round. It is, however, I think the best all-rounder shoe in Nike's lineup. So if you're sticking within that, it's better than that. It edges out the Pegasus 39, which is a good shoe. This is a slightly more enjoyable ride, a slightly lighter shoe. I think a more enjoyable shoe to use for speed work in particular. But yeah, Nike hasn't really nailed this category since they discontinued the Pegasus Turbo for no good reason. So this comes closer than the other shoes in the lineup to being a really good all-rounder. But yeah, other brands I think certainly have shoes that outperform the Peg Turbo Nature.
So my verdict on the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature is it definitely is what I would consider a kind of quicker kind of daily trainer option. It is firm, but I do think that firmness eases up the more mileage you put into it. If I kind of compared it to other shoes that are out there, you're looking at things like the Saucony Dolphin Speed 3, the Hoka Mach 5, Puma Velocity Nitro 2 as well, which is considerably cheaper as well. I would say the Dolphin Speed 3 has a more accommodating upper. I think the Speed 3 works a bit more better at slower speeds as well in comparison to this. I think the Mach 5, the midsole foam feels a little bit softer than what you're getting here as well. And I think maybe it offers a bit more protection in terms of that longer stuff as well. And then the Pure Velocity Nitro as well, I think, yeah, you're getting a bit more in terms of that comfort underfoot as well. And in general for the slower paces as well. But I think it sits pretty nicely with those shoes, particularly I think something like the Mach 5 and the Dolphin Speed 3. If I had to pick between those kind of 3 or 4 shoes, I would probably go for the Mach 5 still, I think, just because of the feel of the midsole foam that you're getting there. And I think, I didn't massively get on with the Dolphin Speed 3 in terms of the fit. I think the Speed 2 would better suited me in terms of the fit. But I think the Pegasus Turbo Next Nature sits well within those shoes. As I said, it is firm. It's firmer than those shoes, but I think if you're willing to kind of put the time in it, you're looking for something to run a bit quicker, you're a fan of the kind of Nike uppers as well, and what Nike is trying to do here in terms of creating a more sustainable shoe that does offer some performance there as well, then I think there is actually a lot to like here. And, it's been a surprise shoe for me. There was all the things there that I thought, might put me off running a lot of kind of runs in this, but every run I had in it, I had a good run. If I'm running a little bit quicker than, usual, and I'm not kind of going at my kind of slower, easy paces. So yeah, I would say the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature, a nice quick kind of daily trainer option. It is firm, but I think you put the mileage in, you can get good rewards out of what this kind of midsole is, recycled midsole foam. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I think this is a good option to kind of sit between those kind of options that I've mentioned. Is it the best one? Maybe not, but I think it sits well with those other kind of quick daily trainers.
Okay, so my verdict on the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature is that it's an adequate shoe. It's fine. I'd go as far as to say it's a good shoe, but it's not an impressive shoe when you compare it with other options out there. And I don't think that's necessarily a majorly bad thing. I think it's fine. I think you're going to be happy if you get this shoe. And the sustainability focus of the shoe is obviously a big factor in that. If your focus is sustainability and you're really looking for a shoe that is focused on that, I think you weigh up the pros and cons of that and you go, well, actually, I'm going to take a little bit of a hit on performance because I want that sustainability factor as well. When it comes to sustainable shoes or shoes that use sustainable elements in them, I think this is one of the best options out there. And it's not far off being a shoe that you probably wouldn't realize is made from sustainable elements. But that recycled ZoomX midsole foam is just very different than how you would find ZoomX in something like the original Peg Turbo or something like the Alphafly or the Vaporfly. It doesn't deliver in the same way. It feels like a completely different foam. It feels denser, feels a little bit less repulsive, a little bit less cushioned, but it's still fine. It does the job, and I think you could use this for lots of runs. I just think if you want performance and you want the best shoe you can get for daily running, this isn't as versatile as options like the Saucony and Dolphin Speed 3, the Hoka Mach 4. I know the other guys have mentioned these as well. And I'd definitely go for one of those shoes. Because the thing with something like the Saucony and Dolphin Speed 3, you can run very fast in that. You could race in it. I mean, I know people that raced in the Speed 2 instead of the Pro 2 just because it was a superior shoe in terms of comfort for them. Same with the Hoka Mach 5. It's just a very light, comfortable shoe. But it's so much more versatile. You can run pretty fast in that. You can race in that. But it also has enough cushioning to deal with those easy day runs, much like the Speed as well. Whereas this, I think it just doesn't have as wide a scope as those shoes. So it's fine. And I also think that the foam really comes into play when you are running a little bit faster, because it feels a lot more dense to me than something like the original ZoomX foam, not the recycled ZoomX foam. And when you're running slow, you just don't get any benefits from it. But when you're running a bit faster, the denser foam, the harder feel to the foam does give a bit more way, and it becomes a little bit more apparent that that's what the shoe is designed for. So I think it's fine. I think it's a all right shoe. I just don't think it quite matches up with some of the other daily options out there at the moment. So that's it from us. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click that little bell icon, and check the channel out for all the other videos we've got from the latest road and trail shoes, as well as running headphones and watches out at the moment. And don't forget, we've also got our monthly podcast, which you can listen to at the end of every month or throughout the month. And you can find that if you go into the caption below and click on the link to your podcast provider of choice. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you soon.